After the episode on Chardonnay, I did a little more research and found out that there are over 10,000 varieties of grapes used to make wine in the world. Can you imagine that? Yet with such an overwhelming number, there are only a handful that wine lovers actually get familiar with. And certainly among the red cultivars, Cabernet Sauvignon is arguably the king.
You found us. Hello, and welcome back. You're tuned in to Wine in 9, where all you need to learn about wine in 9 minutes or less. Here's your host, Bob Cappuccino.
The dark, brooding color, the rich notes of black currants or black olives, perhaps with hints of tobacco or spice, mint or new leather, have won the hearts and palates of connoisseurs and commoners. And what could be better with a grilled ribeye or a rack of lamb? While it is a pretty hardy variety and will grow wherever the climate allows full ripening, it can reach incredible lengths of depth and complexity when it's planted in the right terroir. Certain areas have proven themselves after many vintages of producing ageable, memorable wines. Bordeaux is among the first as it provides the benchmark for the style for vintners throughout all of winedom. Cabernet Sauvignon is the major grape in the Medoc area, west of the Gironde River in France. It is almost always blended with small amounts of Merlot, which is predominant on the other side of the river, and together with Cabernet and Merlot, they comprise about 80% of the vineyards in the Medoc. Small amounts of Cabernet Franc and Malbec may also be used. Now the wines there carry the name of a chateau and the village where it is located, like Chateau Mouton Rothschild, Pauillac. Yet nowhere will you find Cab Sauv on the label. The most expensive cabs are made in the villages of the Medoc and the Haut-Medoc. There are also less expensive and delicious wines from lesser classifications like Bordeaux Supérieur, and they're often called Petit Chateau. But they too will be blends and won't mention the name of any grape unless they note it on the back label. In the United States, Napa Valley has become as highly regarded as Bordeaux. Some of the estates there also command very high prices. Most of them are also blends. By law, a Napa cab must have a minimum of 90% cab that was grown within the Napa Valley. Now this is a law the vintners imposed on themselves to prevent unscrupulous companies from blending wines from other districts and then still calling it Napa. In other regions like Alexander Valley and Sonoma Valleys in Sonoma, Paso Robles in central California, and Walla Walla and Red Mountain areas in Washington have established themselves with well-deserved reputations for high quality. Now in the past, these wines were 100% Cabernet, but time and experience has taught that Cabernet needs certain characteristics that other grapes provide to heighten the structure, complexity, and ageability. So be alert for those blends. The Maipo Valley in Chile, Mendoza in Argentina, the Coonawarra and Margaret River Valleys in Australia, and the Stellenbosch region in South Africa are also prominent Cabernet producers. Now, like the US, they allow 15 to 25% inclusion of other varieties in their blends. In Chile, they use a grape called Carmenere. The Priorat in Spain has recently emerged with marvelous blends based on Cabernet Sauvignon. Wines labeled Cabernet Sauvignon from French, Italian, and Spanish producers are 100%. Otherwise, they have a place name or a made-up name, which usually indicates that the wine is a blend. Now, a side note. When you see the term reserve or reserva on a label, if it's French or Italian or Spanish, there are legal requirements that they must adhere to in order to use that terminology. And they affect the alcohol level and the aging regimes that are necessary. Now in the US and other New World growing areas, the term is unregulated. So it's pretty much at the mercy of whatever the vintner wants to call it. Maybe it is a reserve that he kept aside, or maybe it's just something he added for marketing. Cabernet Sauvignon is given further refinement by aging in small barrels called barriques. They're usually coopered from various forests in France, the US, and Slavonia mainly. Oaks differ from forest to forest in the tightness of the wood's grain. More open types surrender the wood character more quickly, while the more closely grained impart flavors of vanilla and spice more slowly. French oak is the most prized. U.S. oak is more aggressive and is preferred by some producers in America and many Spanish wineries. Now, a winery will select their preferred oak and then determine the percentage of new and old barriques they will use. The Grand Cru of Bordeaux use 100% new French oak every year. The barriques are made by bending the staves over small fires so they can take on a spectrum of toasty caramelish tones. Light toast, medium toast, dark toast will all influence the flavor that's in the wine. This will also determine how many months the wine will age in the cellars before blending the best barrels and bottling the vintage. Aging in oak adds to the natural tannic acidity which comes from the skin contact, so it must be managed carefully. When young, these wines may seem a little rough with young bitterness from the tannins because they haven't yet balanced and reconciled to the fruit. That will come with time. Oak should always be used as a seasoning and not a flavoring. Cabernet Sauvignon blends age extremely well and develop interesting nuances of flavor. A 10 or 15-year-old blend will offer a completely different experience, with the tannins softening, the fruit made more round, and aromas developing into intriguing bouquets. Now, there's a lot of inexpensive Cab, and it's made everywhere. Usually it's stainless steel fermented, which gives bright fruity tones. Unoaked Cab can be very nice for quaffing. If it was carefully made, it will even age nicely for several years. Now, large wineries attempt to achieve broader ranges of flavors, so they might age some of that wine for a short period in oak, but more often, oak chips are used and they're allowed to steep in the wine before bottling. For me, this often makes the wine a bit rough by raising the tannin levels and making the wines too woody. You'll have to conduct your own search for the Cab that fits your palate. And here again is where your wine merchant will be indispensable. Matching Cabernet Sauvignon to foods is pretty direct. Roasted beef, lamb, venison, hearty stews, roasted root vegetables and mushroom dishes, very complimentary. Sharp cheddar and other strong cheeses work the best. There's more I could add about Cabernet and its blends, but I think I've said enough for today. Thank you for listening. This is Bob Cappuccino for Wine and Nine.
Thanks for listening to Wine and Nine. We hope we used your 9 minutes wisely. If so, or if not, please let us know. Give us your feedback, good, bad, whatever. We'd love to hear from you. Look for Wine and Nine across social media. We're at wineand9.com, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So grab a glass and join, subscribe, download, tweet, whichever you choose. Or you can go to our home base at wineand9.com. Want to email? We're at info@wineand9.com.